people are not in agriculture for the easy way. You know, they're people who enjoy challenges and like to fight for what they know is right and fight for the land and all that it produces for us. It's such a rewarding feeling that you can get from agriculture.
I think we've been on the other side and just lived and worked to make a living. And all of a sudden, having this opportunity, you realize you're living and working to make a difference.
Sure will. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Ken and Lynetta Greiner both grew up in and around agriculture, with Lynetta's parents in the timber industry, raising cattle, slowly piecing together Usher Farm as Lynetta grew up. The couple was married in 1979, with Ken going into his family's car business and Lynetta practicing law. In 1985, Lynetta's brother Tommy had started running the company alongside his father, E.T. Eder Usher Jr. When Tommy was killed in a boating accident on the Suwannee River in 1989, Ken and Lynetta felt called to take over the operations.
What my parents had built and that Tommy had taken over was really, really important. And it was more important than our own personal goals and choices. And so we changed paths and realized that now we're right where we think we should be.
Today, Usher Farm, located in Chiefland, Florida, is an 8,000-acre, family-owned and operated timber and cow-calf operation. Just a mile from the Suwannee River, it's a mix of open grasslands, planted pines and natural forests, winding creeks and peaceful springs. And like most farms, it's in business to harvest a crop.
Forests cover over half the state. Not a lot of people who are even Floridians realize that it's such an important agricultural commodity. It's a $25.1 billion industry in Florida, and it employs over 124,000 of our friends and neighbors.
What we do is essentially a crop. It's just a longer rotation. You have corn, you have row crops. It's a one-year deal with timber. It's planted in rows. Their site prep is done to prepare the ground prior to planting. Maybe one or two fertilization during a rotation of a timber stand, but essentially it is a crop, and it is just a long-term 18 to 25-year crop.
After a harvest, Usher Land and Timber will replant a site with 600 to 800 slash, longleaf, or loblolly pine seedlings. After 14 to 16 years, to prevent nutrient depletion in the soil, the stand will be thinned or selectively harvested to allow the healthier trees to mature. The younger trees will be used to make pulp or wood shavings. Once the trees mature and are harvested, they'll be sent to a mill for lumber ranging from 1x4s to decking material. In addition to lumber, wood, and paper, tree byproducts like cellulose are used to manufacture over 5,000 common items, from ice cream and toothpaste to computer touchscreens.
Forestry being long-term, it's got to be sustainable. You got to say, I'm going to stick with this for a number of years, and I'm going to nurture land to grow the best crop of trees I can.
Usher Land and Timber ensures that all of their crew leaders are certified master loggers, arming them with the knowledge and tools to follow best management practices, or BMPs, in forestry.
Best management practices, or BMPs, are employed in all the segments of agriculture. For logging in particular, it's all about protecting the water, the streams and the waters that are in the forest that you're logging.
They follow all the silviculture best management practices, so that's part of their prescribed burning, their fire line maintenance, of course their timber harvesting, and anytime they're doing site prep. Whenever they work around the water features, there's special BMPs for keeping erosion and sedimentation out of those water features.
BMPs are also employed in the farm's cattle operations. Along with rotational grazing, the farm practices silvopasture. During the winter months, when frost covers the pastures, cattle are allowed to graze under the forest canopy. The cows not only benefit from fresh grass, They also reduce the fuel load for a potential wildfire.
Florida is a cow-calf state, which means a typical rancher raises a calf. When he weans it, it goes to the Midwest. We don't do that in our operation.
Cattle have been a part of the operation since the 1950s. What started as a side hobby by Lynetta's father is now a cow-calf operation managed today by her son Corey.
From conception to consumption, everything stays in the state of Florida. So that's taking trucks off the road because they typically have to go out west, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. And from where we sit, the farthest trip my calves take is 30 minutes away from here. And that's alleviating a lot of stress on the animal, because at the end of the day, the stress on an animal is my biggest issue and concern.
Stress is one of the biggest problems you have in the industry. It impacts everything you do. Medicines, vaccines aren't as effective. Artificial insemination, which we use quite a bit of. Anytime they're nervous, things aren't going to work as well. So it helps your operation. The calmer you can keep that animal.
To help reduce stress on the cattle, the farm utilized some of the groundbreaking ideas of Dr. Temple Grandin when designing the chutes and pens. The area is shaded, and they work the cattle on horseback. And the lanes are now curved and tapered to prevent the cattle from turning around.
They really produce some outstanding, high-quality cattle, and really have taken it to the next level.
Under their leadership, Usher Land and Timber is growing more than timber and cattle. It's growing awareness of the importance of agriculture in Florida.
I'm motivated because I feel like we have an important message to get out there, and it's hard to gain ground. It's hard work. The margins are slim. It's hard to keep agriculture viable, sustainable, and in business.
But there was a realization a couple of years ago that there was a need to make sure that working lands were making a profit so that the families could stay in business, but also find ways that we could integrate sustainable practices into that money-making operation. So the Florida Climate Smart Working Group was established about 3 or 4 years ago to try to meld these two divergent areas into one.
We have 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. They don't understand the importance of agriculture. We can't filter water on concrete and pavement. We can't create oxygen out of sky rises. We have to have agriculture to provide those things that are so vital to our very existence.
A consortium of agriculturalists, environmentalists, and researchers, the Work Group defined a number of ecosystem services or benefits that forests provide.
Forested lands are good for the environment. They can sequester carbon out of the atmosphere, lock it up in organic matter and soil. It is good for cleaning the water and good for cleaning the air. These are all called ecosystem services, and all taken together, that may be a more value component to Florida than just the economic value alone.
The things that I do to advocate for agriculture, forestry particularly, is not necessarily for Usher Land and Timber or for our family. It's for the industry. It's for our way of life.
Lynetta recognized early on that building coalitions on the common interests that different groups have, rather than focusing on the differences that we have, really goes a long way.
She really is able to voice what we all think, and then transfer it into a language that the environmentalist understands, that the logger understands, and the average citizen understands.
They are true stewards of the land. They sold a conservation easement on a parcel to the west that is on what's referred to as Wind Bend.
We did that in the 1990s, and we felt like that was truly property that never needed to be developed. It's part of the watershed for the Suwannee.
The trees and grasslands on the Wind Bend Conservation Easement act as a buffer during high rain events slowing the flow of water off Usher Farm and the surrounding lands directly to the Suwannee River. This was most evident during the unprecedented rains of 2018 and 2019.
You could not step out on this property anywhere without stepping in water. If we did not have agriculture here as a buffer to that river, those things would be incredibly destructive.
The Suwannee River is really important to my whole family, to Ken and me, to my sister, and to our son Corey. Ken and I got married on the Suwannee River 43 years ago, and of course my brother was killed on it in 1989. So we're very cognizant of what we do here affecting what is downstream from our properties.
But the love and the history of that river runs, it's who we are. It's where we grew up. It's where we spent our entire lives when we weren't here working.
Everybody that works here is kind of a family, so they do a very good job of including everyone into their daily lives, not just work, but everything in between too.
So we understand how blessed we are, not just to all be in ag, but to have the ability to be around each other.
You know, this place that I'm lucky enough to call work is, you know, it's a part of Florida that's disappearing every day, and they're never going to make it again. So my number one job is to make sure that this goes on to the next generation, and not only goes on to them, but is in better shape than when I worked it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I could do that would make probably more money. It just gives me a feeling that we're doing the right thing, and it's about being happy and enjoying what the good Lord gave us to work with.
I think my parents instilled in me the desire to advocate for what's important. But it's important to advocate for what you love, and I truly love this. And the older I get, the more I appreciate what my parents put into building what we have today.